Hey, She's on the Money. I'm really torn and need your help working through a big family career change. My partner's just been offered an incredible job opportunity that's life-changing. But it's in a big town over an hour away from where we currently live in the city. We have 2 kids, I work full-time, and if we stay here, I take on a lot more of the load to cover the commute, and I would have to do the big commute 1 day a week. The job would likely only be for a couple of years, so I'm not sure if we should move to that town. It would mean moving away from family support and our kids having to change school. My husband wants to stay, but I think the move makes more sense. I never really changed schools as a kid. Is it really that bad? What would you guys do?
Do you want to go to me?
You go.
Is it just me? Like, Jess, you drive over an hour to work.
Well, my first thought
You're not like, oh, I need to move to Richmond.
No, and I know that I'm like, I guess a bit of the anomaly. Actually, no, one of the other girls in the team lives quite close to me. Like an hour to work is like a bare minimum for me. And that's
my dad did that for years when I was growing up.
Yeah, I grew up in the suburbs. Like that, an hour commute to me is honestly nothing. Like to me, that's the
under
standard.
an hour. Oh, that's quick.
That's literally. I had a good run. Took me 45 minutes. Dream. So to me, when you said it's an hour away, but I don't want to disregard the fact that you said that would mean you taking on a lot of the additional mental load. I feel like maybe that's where it's coming from, because the commute itself, an hour, from someone who makes it, it's neither here nor there.
Yeah. You just build it. And I'm not saying that it's super fun, but you do just build it into your day.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I understand that means perhaps that's 2 hours a day less help that you would get from your partner. But
hopefully the finances make up for it, right? Because otherwise it's not a good decision to take that job.
Yeah. I think that if I was you, I would be weighing up the pros and cons. Like, I know it sounds really silly. Have you done a pros and cons list? Obviously, a con is you would be taking on more work. But what does that work look like specifically? Because typically, in my mind, that would mean in the morning, you're probably doing school drop off by yourself, lunch boxes, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And in the evening, you're doing dinner prep, maybe bath time, depending on the kid's age, that sort of stuff by yourself. A lot of people do within their partnership do that, because I think like that kind of commute is actually quite common. Like a lot of people have to travel to get to work. Is it manageable?
There's going to be so many people listening to this going, I'm listening to the She's on the Money podcast because I'm always in the car for an hour.
Yeah, genuinely. Like, is whatever the work looks like, I'm basing that on like a lot of assumptions. Whatever you're believing you'll take on, is it manageable for you? And if it is manageable for you, are there things that you can pass off to your partner? When they're home on the weekends, they pick up some more of the housework so that you're not doing that. Can you get a robot vacuum so you don't vacuum in the evenings because now you've got a bit more cash flow? Like, are there things you can do to kind of counterbalance it?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I personally wouldn't move for something that's only an hour away.
That's how I feel. Like, you're uprooting a house. I'm thinking about property.
You said you're moving away from your family support, which I think is probably important with kids.
Very important.
Do you do vet? Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, sorry. I was just going to say, I never moved schools, so I can't really comment on that. But did you move schools? Have you said that?
I did move schools.
I feel like I remember you talking about that.
I did move schools. We did move a fair bit. I moved schools and then moved back to the same school.
Yeah.
Moving schools, I think it depends what age you are. Obviously, if it's like, did they mention?
No.
Oh,
I moved schools 3 times.
Did you?
Up.
I didn't know that.
Crazy. Hey.
It depends on so many things. Like if your children have so many friends and like they really like their classes, they really like their teachers, they have a really good community there, then it's like, oh yeah, don't do that to them. But then, if you can avoid it, but if you can't avoid it, then they'll be fine. Like, 'cause it actually, I'm sure it does help with their resilience and like social skills and learning to connect with different walks of life and like different people, different brains, different all these things, you know what I mean? So it is beneficial in some way. But yeah, if you can avoid it, cool. If not, cool. But yeah, I think that it depends. Like did they say if they drive?
No, I don't think so.
No. If it's like really, really hard to get there, like because an hour in a car, cool. An hour anywhere in a car, fine. An hour to, I know it's not an hour to Ballarat, but say it is. It's like, God, that's like probably 20 buses. You know what I mean? Like, what does the commute look like? Maybe that is actually really, really tricky, which is so fair. But I'm also thinking like the commute currently, if it took me an hour to get here, that's only 26 more minutes than usual. You know what I mean? And it's like, God, an hour. I'm not going to do that. But it's like, only a little bit more than what I'm doing right now. So it's like, does it just add that much time, or is it like, does it feel really, really crazy because hearing it or seeing it in that way is like, it feels like too much to bear. But like, I think
if
that
you worked locally and works 15 minutes away. And all
yeah, it's like an extra 45 minutes. But it's
Yeah.
like you think of it as an hour and you're like, my God, that's crazy. So maybe like frame it that way. I don't know. But I would also say like if it is temporary or potentially just like whatever.
Nothing's
Alright.
permanent.
I just
Nothing
feel
is permanent.
like talking about this, I just feel like, you know, you wrote in, you said it was a life-changing job opportunity, right? So I'm assuming that means significant financial remuneration in comparison to what you currently have. And, you know, if it's only going to be short-lived, like, can we not have the mindset of, yeah, it's going to be hard. Like, I'm not trying to make this sound easier, but like for the next few years, we're going to lock in, we are going to do this. You know, my compromise is that I'm going to have to spend more time at home because my husband's going to go out, make a big bank. But we've got this cash flow plan that means that in the 3 years that he's going to, you know, have this job, we are going to be in such a better financial situation that we're on the same page about it being worth it.
Yeah.
And like Jess, you said before, like, you know, if you have a bit more free money, you could buy like a robot vacuum. In my head, I was like, okay, cool. I could, you know, let's say that my husband gets this job opportunity of a lifetime, which is what you're saying it is, and he's going to earn double what he's currently earning. I don't think it would be beyond the scope of what's reasonable to go, okay, cool. Yeah, we are maybe financially a little bit pressed, but let's spend $150 a week on a cleaner that comes in every week, maybe every Friday, so that you're not spending any time on the weekends cleaning. Like, yes, you might do the day-to-day stuff, but like someone comes in, and I'm trying to sell you on this, they do your bathrooms, they, you know, change the sheets of the kids' beds, they change your bed, they do the whole hog, right? Maybe you find someone who's a bit cheaper because they take cash. Like, just find what works for you. But that might be an investment in your mental health. So you don't have to do any of that. Then when the weekend comes and your husband is home, you're spending really good quality family time together, but you're not trying to find time during the week either to do the sheets and linen. And like, maybe you're like, oh my goodness, the bathroom hasn't been touched in weeks. And that can genuinely weigh quite heavily on you mentally. So I feel like, what compromises could you be making? Like, and this again is probably me talking, you've got more cash flow, you're financially a little bit more comfortable. Instead of having to do the grocery shopping every single week, are we looking at a food delivery service like Marley Spoon, where you can have dinner 4 nights a week, it's in the fridge, it's ready to cook. So you just do school pickup, come home and start prepping dinner. There's no like that overwhelming, oh my goodness, I don't know what I'm going to cook for dinner, I have to go to the supermarket, that like mad rush, like you're running around like a chicken without a head after school. Like, what can we do to set ourselves up for success? Because I'm on the same team. I just think that if it's an hour away, we don't need to uproot our whole lives, especially if your family is there. We're not moving away from them. But what things could we spend a bit of money on so that it feels really comfortable during that period of time? Or are we just trying to change our mindset so that we're like, all right, we're locking in for 3 years. It's going to be a bit of a hard hog, but like, look how much better off we're going to be. And everyone's just on the same page.
Yeah.
Like, what does that look like?
What did everyone else say when we asked them?
Oh my goodness, so many opinions. So first thing we asked is, if you were our community member, would you stay or move? 53% of you said move. It's more sustainable. Surprising.
I mean, sustainability, I guess, is good. But they could catch the train if that's an option, potentially, public transport.
And then you can do 2 things at once. If you are like, oh, I'm taking on more of the mental load. No, if your partner is taking the train every day, they do all the admin on the train.
You know, I have a friend who lives in Ballarat and commutes to the city every day and has negotiated in their contract that they actually get a 9 a.m. train because there's less like people on there, and because it's like a V line, which is more of a regional train, so you're guaranteed a spot basically. They work for the hour on the train on the way there, and they've negotiated with their boss that that's in their working time. So they leave at 4 p.m. and they arrive technically at the office at 10 a.m., but they've already done like the 2 hours, so their commute time is actually
that's great.
Genius, right?
That's great. I think that should be.
And the like regional trains have Wi-Fi and stuff, so they're fine. But like, isn't that smart?
That's so clever.
Yeah,
anyway,
I love it.
47% of you said you'd stay and not uproot the kids. I feel like we're all like, just stay. I was surprised with that split. Have you or your kids ever had to move school because of a parent's job? 46% said no, we never had to consider it. 30% said yep and it was fine. 13% said no, but a parent did the commute, and 11% said yes and it was a struggle.
Okay, interesting spread.
I moved schools 3 times
yeah,
because
how's
of
that for
parents'
you?
jobs.
How did you find it?
I think because it was relatively early primary school, it wasn't as dramatic as it would have been if it was high school. I think in high school, I would have been very upset to lose my friends. But when I was little, like making friends when you're like 6, 7, 8 is not as hard as teenagers.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were moving states. So first we were like in Launceston, and then we moved to a place called Sisters Beach in Tasmania. And then from Sisters Beach, we moved over to Melbourne and then, found a primary school there. But I do remember my friends from each location, but I don't remember it being super traumatic. I think my parents worked really hard to make it as easy as possible, or like as exciting as possible.
Yeah.
And I don't remember being like, oh my God, like this is the worst decision ever. I do remember not wanting to leave the school because I had my little friends. But like mum was like, oh, we'll come back to Tasmania, or we'll do this, or you can keep in touch. And I mean, my best friend Harriet lived in Tasmania all through school, still best friends.
Yeah.
Like that hasn't really changed.
Yeah.
Is that rain?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
God, I could sleep. It sounds so lovely.
You're so cute.
We then went to the community and we said, that's crazy. We then went to the community and we said, what is your 2 cents? So first person said, smaller towns often have a stronger community, for example, like sports to keep kids connected. Next person said, my dad was constantly away, but we never had to move. In retrospect, my mum probably had the hardest time.
Yeah.
Next person said, moving a kid in primary school is much easier on them than high school, which is exactly what I said. I moved schools a few times. It was absolutely fine. An unhappy marriage and unhappy parents is definitely worse than moving schools.
I mean, that's a good point.
True. It's a
if
good point.
Going to weigh heavily on you, then that's something you've got to consider too.
Yeah. Someone else said, we did it and we're currently doing it. It turned out to be a better lifestyle for us and we ended up staying. Next person said, teacher here, a fresh start does wonders for kids. They learn to build relationships over time.
Yes.
That's what you were saying.
Another
Yes, very
person
good
said,
point.
and I'm only going to give you a couple more, the commute has one of the biggest effects on overall happiness, which I think is why, Beck, you were saying before, like what could you do during that time? Like, is there a way that you could make that commute not soul destroying? Someone else said, this was me and I actually ended up asking to change schools over having to commute. And then the last person said, I'm a former army brat. Kids are very resilient and will make new friends and settle into a new school easily.
There you go.
I love
I've really
that.
changed. I've really gone 180. I'm like,
You reckon they should move?
because it's like if you're an hour away from your family, that's not too far.
That's
Move.
true. It
Yeah,
applies.
but if you're
It
saying
works
that
in
you've
both
got like a lot
directions.
of
Yeah.
family support, like, and I'm just like making this up in my head at this point, but like if you're saying, oh, we don't want to be far away from family support, like there's nothing like being able to pick up the phone and be like, oh, hey, mom, I'm struggling with the kids. Can you come over and help after school? Like that's
Yeah,
not as
true.
possible if you're asking your mom or whatever to drive an hour for that. So
Yeah.
I feel like you just have to do what Jess said. Have you done a pros and cons list?
We love a pros and cons list.
We absolutely do. All right. Well, unfortunately, that is all we have time for today.